Miss Breyer, can you help my daughter with her reading? I know I have no right to ask, but she's falling behind and I can't be there for her. The voice cracked with shame and desperation as it came through the prison visitation phone, belonging to a man 26-year-old Breyer Ashton had never met, but whose 4-year-old daughter sat in her classroom every day, quiet, withdrawn, struggling with letters while other children raced ahead. Breyer had reached out to parents of all her students, but this call from 33-year-old Quillen Merriweather, currently serving a 3-year sentence for white-collar fraud, surprised her with its raw vulnerability. Mr. Merriweather, I'd be happy to help Clover, Breyer said gently, watching the little girl through her classroom window as she waited with her elderly grandmother. But I should be honest, I can't charge for private tutoring. I work 2 jobs as it is. This would have to be something I do because Clover deserves support, not as a business arrangement. There was silence on the line, then a sound that might have been a suppressed sob. You'd do that? For the daughter of a criminal you've never met? I do it for a child who didn't choose her circumstances and deserves someone to believe in her potential, Breyer replied. That's what teachers do. We see the child, not the situation. What Breyer didn't share was that she understood complicated family dynamics intimately. Her own parents had died in a car accident when she was 19, leaving her alone and barely scraping by. She'd worked her way through college, lived in a tiny apartment, survived on determination and the kindness of strangers who'd helped her when help seemed impossible. If she could be that person for someone else's child, the effort felt worthwhile.
Over the following months, Breyer tutored Clover 3 times a week after school, refusing payment from the girl's grandmother, who could barely afford basics. They worked on phonics, reading comprehension, and slowly, trust. Clover began to open up, about missing her daddy, about the kids who whispered about her criminal father, about feeling different and ashamed. You're not responsible for your father's choices, Breyer told her gently during one session. You're only responsible for your own. And right now, you're choosing to work hard, to learn, to grow. That's what matters. What Breyer didn't know, what Quillen had never revealed, was that before his arrest, he'd been a self-made millionaire tech entrepreneur who'd made one catastrophic ethical mistake under pressure, crossing legal lines that destroyed his company and landed him in federal prison. The money was gone, seized in restitution, but the shame and regret consumed him. His daughter was all that mattered now, and this teacher's kindness was the only good thing in his shattered world. Through monitored prison emails, Quillen and Breyer developed an unexpected correspondence. He asked about Clover's progress, and Breyer shared details, the stories she loved, the breakthroughs in reading, the way she smiled when praised. And gradually, Quillen began sharing too, his remorse, his determination to rebuild ethically when released, his gratitude for someone treating his daughter with dignity when the world had labeled their family as shameful. You're giving her something I can't right now, Quillen wrote. Hope. The belief that kindness still exists, that people can see past labels to her humanity. I'll never be able to repay that. I don't need repayment, Breyer responded. I need her to know she's valued. That's payment enough. 2 years in Quillen's sentence, Breyer's own situation deteriorated. Her landlord sold the building, rent doubled, and on a teacher's salary with no family support, she couldn't afford the increase. She faced eviction, but told no one, too proud to burden others, too exhausted to figure out solutions. She kept tutoring Clover, kept teaching, kept pretending everything was fine while drowning in stress.
What Breyer didn't know was that Clover, with a child's intuition, had noticed her teacher's worry, and in her weekly letters to her father, she'd mentioned it. Miss Breyer looks Sam now. She says she's fine, but her smile is different. Quillen, reading those words in his cell, felt something shift. This woman who'd asked nothing had given everything, time, emotional energy, hope to his daughter when hope was scarce. And now she was struggling, and his inability to help from prison felt like another failure. But Quillen had something few people knew about. Before his assets were seized, he'd created an irrevocable trust for Clover's education, structured legally to be untouchable by courts. The trust had grown over 2 years, and while he couldn't access it, he could authorize its use for legitimate educational purposes, including paying someone who was actively supporting his daughter's education. Through his lawyer, Quillen contacted Breyer with a proposal, The trust would pay her a fair rate for tutoring retroactively and ongoing, enough to cover her rent crisis and then some. Briar initially refused, uncomfortable accepting money she'd explicitly declined before. "Miss Ashton," Quillen's lawyer explained, "you're not accepting charity. You've provided 2 years of professional educational services. This is simply paying what you should have been paid all along. My client insists, and frankly, it's legally structured as an educational expense for his daughter. You're doing him a favor by accepting." Reluctantly, Briar agreed, and the payment arrived, enough to cover her rent for a year and ease the crushing financial pressure. She cried with relief and confusion, overwhelmed by this unexpected grace. 3 months later, Quillen was released early for good behavior. The day after his release, he appeared at Briar's door in a modest suit, carrying a briefcase, his face nervous and hopeful. "Mr. Merriweather," Briar said, surprised. "I wasn't expecting." "I needed to thank you in person," Quillen interrupted gently, "and to show you something." He opened the briefcase, revealing not money but documents, a business plan for an educational tech company focused on supporting children of incarcerated parents, leveraging his tech expertise for social good instead of profit, and a proposal: would Briar consult on the curriculum design, bringing her teacher's perspective to create something truly helpful.
"I can't pay much yet," Quillen admitted. "I'm rebuilding from nothing, trying to create something ethical this time. But you taught me that the most valuable things aren't measured in money. They're measured in impact on human lives. You gave my daughter more than reading skills. You gave her dignity when the world wanted to shame her. That changed both our lives." Briar's eyes filled with tears. "I just did what felt right." "Exactly," Quillen said softly. "And that's what I'm trying to learn. To do what's right, not what's profitable. To build something that helps people rather than uses them. You modeled that every time you stayed late tutoring Clover. Every time you treated her like she mattered. You showed both of us that kindness isn't transactional, that goodness exists without ulterior motives, that people can choose compassion even when it costs them something." They stood in her doorway, 2 people who'd both lost everything and found unexpected grace in each other's kindness. Briar through Quillen's practical help in her crisis, Quillen through Briar's consistent care for his daughter when care was scarce. "I'd love to help with your project," Briar said finally. "Not because you helped me financially, but because I believe in what you're trying to build. Second chances matter, and children caught in impossible circumstances deserve every opportunity we can give them."
Because kindness creates ripples we cannot predict. A teacher tutoring a prisoner's daughter becomes a lifeline for both. A simple act of educational support transforms into mutual rescue. Proof that when we give without calculating return, the universe somehow balances accounts in ways more profound than money. We never know whose life we're saving by simply showing up consistently with compassion, or whose unexpected help will save us when we're too proud to ask. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.